comments are in, and they look pretty good. Hey fam, thank you so much for watching. Our sponsors. The Finkley Experience, an educational consulting firm that specializes in first-generation education, and which prepares high school students for college. For more information, visit their website at thefinkleyexperience.com. Fathers to Father Incorporated, a non-profit organization that strengthens families through father engagement, with a goal to help men in our communities to be great dads. For more information, visit their website, fathertofatherinc.org. ABLAZE Entertainment. The goal of ABLAZE is to take emerging artists and develop them to the next level of their career. For more information, visit their website at ablazeentertainment.net. Thank you.
Hey, this is Nelson Estevez, aka Alonzo from Tyler Perry's The Oval, and you're now watching the Michael Finkley Show.
On the next Michael Finkley, we're now living in a world where mental health affects us all. You don't have to live in the shadows of your pain and hurt. There's help and hope at the end of the tunnel. Licensed mental health counselor Dr. Robert Johnson III is with us as we talk about what mental health looks like in 2022. Next Finkley. Everybody, welcome to the Michael Finkley Show. Thanks for joining us today. So when I first started my show back in 2020, I was in a very dark place. During that time, I was going through so much. The previous year, 2019, I had emergency surgery where I almost died. And I slipped into a very deep depression. A depression so deep that I didn't even know that I was depressed. I shut everyone out without even realizing it. Just going to work, going back home because the doctor told me to, kind of limit my activities because, again, very busy individual. And so when that happened, my family would call and say, "What's going on? Why are you talking with us?" I didn't even realize it. And I'm a very family-oriented individual. And so as time went on, depression came even more, the anxiety came even more. And again, at a very low place when I first started this show. And so I realized as time goes on, I have to be aware of my mental well-being. I really coined the phrase in listening to many different motivational speakings and different individuals about the cup, right? Your life is a cup, right? Full with your favorite liquid. And if you have an overflow, that overflow is for everyone else. But within that realm, that's all for you, all right? For you, for you, for you. And you can't be effective for people if your cup is not full. So I was literally serving others from an empty cup, right? And that really made sense to me. It really clicked to me right then and there that I have to take care of myself. I have to take care of me. Because if I don't take care of myself, who else is going to take care of me? And so from that point on, I realized that I have to come first. It's not being selfish, it's just being aware of my mental state, aware of where I need to be for myself. In order to get my stuff together, then I can effectively serve others. So within this show today, we talk about the awareness of our mental health. We talk about mental illness, the differences, mental wellness. Amazing licensed mental health counselor, Dr. Robert Johnson III. So this is a show you don't want to miss. Think fam, don't you go away. Back in a moment. Coming up, mental health counselor, Dr. Johnson. Don't go away.
I am Harley Wallen, and you are watching The Michael Finkley Show.
On the next Michael Finkley, from the Grammy-nominated gospel trio Trinity 5-7, Angel Taylor is with us. She talks about life as a solo artist, her singles, Speak, and future projects. Next, Finkley.
Speak to me. I need your love all over me until the end of time.
Hello everybody, it's Finkley from the Finkley Experience. We're an educational consulting firm that specializes in first-generation education. So we assist students with their college and career endeavors. We train school administrators on the state of first-generation students. And also, we partner with colleges and universities to assist their first-generation population for easy transition from high school to college. So if you're looking for a presenter or speaker that presents on these topics and so much more, visit our website at thefinkleyexperience.com and learn about all that we do. We're looking forward to working with you. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Michael Finkley Show. Now y'all, my next guest, he is a licensed counselor in the state of South Carolina and North Carolina, but he's also a licensed mental health counselor and supervisor in North Carolina as well. He is Dr. Robert Johnson III. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Dr. Finkley. How are you doing this evening, too?
I am super, uber, duper well.
That is great.
I must say. And I must say this as well. Goodwill is the mark of this house. It
There
really
you go.
is.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I love it. So
Yeah.
I thank you so much for taking the time out to chat with us about a very important topic that is trending. It's trending. It's a long-going, continuous conversation of mental health.
Yes.
We're all going through something. We've all been through something. It has affected our mental health at times. But I must say, when you were growing up, when did you realize, even going into adulthood, when did you realize that, hey, my mental health is important?
Right. So, and that's a great place to start. It has always been really, in my household, a focus of be your best, but not at the point of taking away from your, being your authentic self. And so, my parents have always instilled in me, when you feel like things are not, great, talk to us about it. They've always encouraged that level, especially my mom being a special education teacher, always express that level of communication, expressing your emotions, expressing your feelings. And my dad too, as well. We want to know how you're feeling. We want to know how you and your sisters are feeling, because that was always a big thing in regards to my household. And so I knew at that point in time, it was important for me to understand that expressing your feelings does kind of help you feel better. Now, in the point of kind of understanding the trajectory as it relates to my professional in regards to being a clinician, that wasn't there until I actually got into undergraduate and really getting into graduate school and really learning about the importance of, being a licensed clinician and how it can help and save others' lives too as well. Yeah.
Wow. So realizing your own mental health and your own status, as we can say at times, you are that much more effective to help others as well. What type of things have you heard? Because we've been through a pandemic, we're still going through it.
Yes.
What type of things have you heard during this, 2.5 years that we've been going through this global thing?
Yes. Well, the main thing is there has been a lot of heightened anxiety. People are in this place, in this state of mind where we're still kind of in shock. And that's for everybody. Everybody in some way have experienced what I would call the pandemic blues. And what that means is that things that we once did, we can no longer do before. We have to be flexible. And part of maintaining your mental health hygiene is really being flexible. And so a lot of things that I've heard is in regards to heightened anxiety. We have had, because people have felt isolated, increased suicide. That is really a big piece. And it's good that, we have a lot of different celebrities and a lot of people kind of coming out and talking about the importance of maintaining your mental health hygiene. I wish it had been sooner, because we're losing a lot of lives. And when we talk about underserved communities, we're talking about individuals that don't even have access to health insurance. So not knowing about trying to see if their churches provide different vouchers to help them meet with a mental health clinician, or a clinician being willing to do pro bono services, just like an attorney would, things of that nature. Then we're also seeing the transition of our children. When you're talking about children being in a household that were once going to school, playing with their friends, then coming home, maybe going back outside after they've done their homework. We're talking about young children that are experiencing this pandemic blues because they're not able to socialize. You've also seen a lot of different rages that people have had because people have been isolated. So we also have to learn social learning behaviors too back. So there's a lot of things that are really coming out of this pandemic. And I say that lightly because I want people to understand, although, things are kind of looking on the up and up, we're still having some things in terms of our physical health where people are still catching COVID. So we need to be aware of that. We're not out of this thing yet. We have to learn how to live with it, but we're not out of this. But we got to make sure that we're maintaining our mental health, well-being, health in all aspects. And so we got to address that. So those are just some of the things. And one thing, I want people to understand, there's a lot of supports out here through your local, city, state, and federal government. You have the National Alliance on Mental Illness. They talk about, 1 in 5 individuals will experience mental health. So that means there can be 5 people in a room and one of those persons are experiencing mental health. And when we talk about serious mental health illnesses, we're talking about psychosis related to schizophrenia, bipolar. That is 1 in 20 individuals that are experiencing that. And there's a lot of myths and taboos about, well, I can pray it away, or, I don't have to take any medication, or I'll just deal with this for a year and it'll go away. But we want people to understand, just because you are speaking with a clinician, it's almost the same as going to your doctor, your medical doctor, your spiritual doctor, who would be your preacher, your reverend. You need to have all of those different elements so that you can have your best physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional hygiene. That's what the key piece is, the total person, making sure the total person is healthy. Because if you can't be healthy for yourself individually, you can't be healthy for others. And one of my philosophies that I always speak to is, we want to think about this from a spiritual sense. God wants us to live in abundance. But we also have to understand, when we have that overflow, the overflow is what we give to others. And we would always hear statements saying, well, whatever is in my cup, I want to give that to you. So you're going to deplete yourself. So meaning that your mental health will be impacted, your physical health will be impacted, your spiritual health will be impacted, your emotional health will be impacted. That's very important to kind of realize and understand. We've got to be aware of those things, because those things are spoken on generations. And people start thinking, well, I've got to give of myself all the time. And that's not what that's about, because you can't give of yourself when you have nothing to give.
See, now you're preaching. Now you're preaching, because I just realized that a few years ago, literally a few years ago, saying that if my cup is empty, how can I be effective for others, right?
Yes.
So any overflow that I have that comes out of my cup is for y'all. But what's in my cup? In my cup, that's for me. That is for me, because at the end of the day, I have to look out for me. Yes, I'm here to help and serve others, but if I'm not in a good state, I can't help and serve others.
That's correct. That's correct, sir. That's correct.
Yeah.
And I like the word that you said, effectively, because we need to really understand what that means, because a lot of people feel like, well, if I'm in a place that I can help, but they're giving they're not giving all of them. And we want to be our best self. We want to go about things in the best type of way. And if we can't do that, that is a sign of really your mental health being impacted. And that's a big key piece too, as well. People understanding the difference between mental health and mental illness. If you don't kind of change habits and ways, it can turn into, from your mental health to a mental illness. That's just where you start having the levels of anxiety, depression. And for some people, different mood swings, where it's more related to bipolar, it's more related to psychosis like schizophrenia. And that's where, there has to be a consultation with a psychiatrist who's a medical doctor for medication management. Because a lot of people don't want to go that route, because they know, okay, if I take medications, it may have a side effect. And yes, it will. and that's a conversation that you would speak with your psychiatrist, but the focus should always be short term. We don't want anybody to be on medication forever, but if that is what it takes to help them with being stable along with therapy and other supports, then so be it. But we want to make sure that we're having those kind of meetings with whomever their support team is, being the doctor, the nurse, the therapist, family members, caregivers who are those family members, community leaders, support. You know, everybody, again, it's about addressing the total person and making sure the total person is healthy. So that's the key. Yeah.
I love this conversation. I really do, because we need more like it. And in what you do, right? You cover so many different things when it comes down to a person's mental health. And I must ask, because you and I both being Black males, being professionals, have you seen a rise of Black males seeking help and trying to cope with mental health?
Man, this is really a key piece. But as Black males, we want to see those licensed clinicians that look like us. And unfortunately, there are not a high number of us that are in this field. You know, I'm in what you would call the top 1% to 2% of Black males that are both licensed in 2 border states. So that's important to know. So it's like Black males will seek you out, you know, by word of mouth, because it's about being able to relate to the person, understanding that this is not a judgment. Because I always tell people, when you come in, especially as a Black male, if you have gotten there, I want to applaud you, because that's the first piece. Because one, we're not going to talk to people. That's what the myth is. But increasingly enough, more are getting a little bit more comfortable, because it's this relatable in terms of, this is like a brother to me, or this is like an uncle to me, or this is like a father to me. So it's a little bit more with that relationship building and understanding that this is the key step. You kind of coming in here, not trying to force you to do anything, but I'm here to guide you. I'm here to assist you, because that's what we as Black males want to understand. We are, what I would say, always put low at the totem pole with everything. And so we want to come in with some level of control. And part of that control is picking our professional healthcare providers. That's the key. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. It's not that we don't want to get the help, but we understand that we have to go to someone that can relate to me with things that I'm kind of going through, and will allow me to feel comfortable to speak with them without judging me from A to Z, because that's the key piece. And that's one of the things that I really kind of focus on, trying to really mentor a lot of Black males in this field. Every time I will speak to a Black male, my first thing, if they will say, you know, they have their bachelor's degree or their master's degree, I'm encouraging, well, why don't you get your licensure? How can we kind of connect you with someone that can supervise you? If I can't be the one to supervise you, how can we connect you with maybe a licensed clinical supervisor who's an LCSW? Because again, I'm a licensed professional counselor. And, you know, when you have different criteria in terms of credentialing, you know, for licensed clinical social workers, they have to be supervised by a clinical social worker. So it's really kind of encouraging Black males to understand you are needed. You are definitely needed, because we have young men that are coming up. And one of the key pieces, you know, this conversation can go in many different angles. One of the key pieces that we have to understand, in the educational system, there's a pipeline for us not to go to college. Now, you and I know that that is not the case, because statistically, we have beat that statistic, because we are going to college. But the key piece is the direction, the trajectory is wanting us to go to the pipelines to the prison, okay? And that by itself creates a lot of trauma. You know, during the pandemic, we have had a lot of just racial things that have come about that has really impacted us. And it's very traumatic. You know, you don't want to always think when you get on the road, and I see this post all the time, you know, it's underrated to get back home. You got to pray to get back home, or you want to feel safe. I don't want to have to think, if I'm planning a trip and I'm going to be away from my family, well, am I going to be safe? That shouldn't be a thought. The thought should be, you know, I'm going to take my time. I'm going to try to focus on things that I can control and being safe on the road for myself and others. And that's it. But now you have to think about, well, what if I get stopped just because of the way I look? What will happen? Will I come back home to my family? So those are things that are traumatic for us that continues to, impact our mental well-being. And so my key to that and my recommendation is to that is always focus what you have control over, but have and live in that realistic world, but don't allow it to overwhelm you. That's why you have the supports, and we need the supports of more Black males so that you can kind of talk about this, so that you can kind of have support and we can have conversation with different populations to get an understanding, because it's really about understanding. That's the key piece. It's really about understanding. And if we can get to that point, it will allow us to understand the importance of humanity, really.
Yeah. I love the key point of when you said understanding, because if we know better, we'll do better, right?
That's right.
No, we can't grow. So exactly. I love the educational piece of providing the information, the proper information needed for understanding. And again, that conversation, like you said, can go in many different ways, many different arenas. And again, it just needs to continuously happen.
Exactly.
Consistently. I know that many people say, COVID, did this, that, and the other, right? And now it's affecting our mental health. But do you consider COVID a blessing in the sense of now people are talking more about mental health than ever? Because I don't remember the conversation being this boldly before. What are your thoughts?
It's so interesting that you would ask me that, Dr. Finkley, because when I think about COVID, and I'm going to relate it more so to what we say in mental health, we'll say not otherwise classified, meaning it's an unknown. Mm-hmm. Because what COVID has done, it has really allowed us to really have conversations. So that was the advantage of it, because it has brought a lot of things to the table. Mm-hmm. So that is a key piece of what COVID has brought. Now, other pieces is that it has kind of shown us that we're not, and again, this is my own personal opinion, but it has also shown us that we have to be advocates for our own health. And what I mean by that is, when we're talking about saying to you, you got to get your checkups from the doctor, you got to kind of engage in a healthy living, you got to kind of eat the correct foods, all of those different things, that is a real thing. Because when you're dealing with these types of illnesses that are being spread, it impacts people that are more, they're more kind of going to be a little bit more impacted than others will.
Okay.
And we have seen that even if you are very much so healthy, there still has to be an education for yourself, because there are a lot of people that have said, hey, well, it's not going to happen to me because I'm a very healthy person. Mm-hmm. But that's not the case. You're still a human being. Yeah. You still have blood that runs through your body. There's still things that can be impacted that you don't know from a genetic standpoint. So that can't be the situation too. So what I would say COVID has brought out was a lot of conversation and education. Mm-hmm. That's the key piece. Yeah.
Wow. And as a professional, we know that as a professional, you are a resource for individuals. Yes. But how do you yourself as a professional maintain your own mental health?
What's up, everybody? This is Ryan Toby. You know me from Sister Act 2, Mr. Oh Happy Day, and the hit R&B group City High. I'm welcoming everybody to join and tune into the Michael Finkley Show. Don't forget to subscribe.
CTR Media Network was created for today's podcasters. We provide a safe haven for content creators that are everyday people doing extraordinary things. We have a system of positioning, monetization training, coaching, and support for our podcasters' success. CTR Media Network simply bridges that gap with a level playing field for your dreams to come true cost effectively. Our team provides a premium service and experience for our podcasters to grow. CTR Media Network provides access, support, resources, coaching, and community for our podcasters to win, if you put in the work. We believe that we are living in a unique time which requires you to share your message of hope with millions of people around the world. Remember that the world is never too saturated for you, your voice and message. A platform for positive, impactful media where the content creators are in the driver's seat. Visit our website today by going to www.ctrmedianetwork.com.
And as a professional, we know that as a professional, you are a resource for individuals.
Yes.
But how do you yourself as a professional maintain your own mental health?
Right. So for me, and you know, this is always what I tell people, just like I always try to make sure folks are their authentic self, I am too. That is always an ongoing process for me because I'm always reevaluating things. I'm always kind of saying, okay, this isn't working for me. But for me, it's really about going with the approach to understand, you know, I don't know everything. And two, I've got to have boundaries. So if I have family members that are having issues or friends, yes, I'm going to help you out and I'm going to make sure that I stand by you. But I'm also going to say, okay, how can we look at different supports that you have? Because if you don't do that, you will constantly be the person that's counseling your own family, your own friends, you know, your community, all of those types of things. So you got to be able to say no and do it in a way where you don't feel like it's hurting people. Because I think what happens is we all sometimes have what's called that guilty effect. We're like, oh, if I don't do this, I'm just a bad person. And that's not the case. That's maintaining your own mental well-being. Mm-hmm. That's the key. And then also, you know, I like the outdoors. What I tell people is, you know, there's a lot of things that are very much so free to you just to kind of get out and feel the air, feel the grass, go on a road trip by yourself, or get into some space that's going to help you. Also involving myself in physical activity, working out, you know, kind of playing some sort of sports, running, you know, playing ball, something that's going to focus and kind of help you be your best self. And then also what's most important to me is my spiritual being. You know, a lot of people don't like to talk about that because they feel like, well, I don't want to kind of push this on people. We're not talking about people. We're talking about you. And I'm a believer in God. And so because I'm a believer in him, I understand that he died truly for my sins. And I also understand that he wants me to be my best self. But in order for me to be my best self, I have to be my authentic self. And what does that mean? Sometimes it means taking that armor off a little bit and saying, okay, you know what? You need to do a self-check of your attitude. You know, I can tell you countless times there have been things that have aggravated me and irritated me, and I've had to really get over myself, literally, Dr. Finkley, and take a step back and say, this isn't about you. You need to focus on the big picture here. What is the big picture here? And then also, you know, I will tell you, you know, your close family members will show you patience too, and friends will show you patience too that you have to learn so that you can build up, one, your character, but it also will allow you to say, okay, let me kind of take a step back and kind of focus on those things that are most important, because those minuscule things that I'm focusing on, those are the things that are impacting my mental health. You know, we sometimes have an issue, and this is something that's important. I really want people to kind of hear me when I say this. Part of living is that you're going to deal with disappointment, but it's how you deal with those disappointments to move on. We can't continue to stay stuck in those areas. And I tell anybody this because I tell myself this, because we get so focused on those disappointments that we forget about all the blessings that are happening to us. As I have stated before earlier to you, my brother, you are a blessing to many because you don't know you're creating trajectories for different people. And we don't understand that people are sometimes positioned in our lives to help us build on other things that we least suspect, but we're so focused on the disappointments. And it's the disappointments that we continue to focus on that take us out mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. There are so many people before the pandemic, I'll say pre-pandemic and, you know, pandemic, and some would consider this post-pandemic, that have dealt with so much isolation because they have felt so disappointed with people, because they have learned who their key close family members are, who their key close friends are, and they have been disappointed. But one thing that I want you to recognize is that's a revelation. Everybody can't be in the same season every time for you. There are some people that's going to be around forever. And then there's a season of things that you are supposed to learn from. God talks about that in the Bible. So we've got to focus on those things and understand and say, okay, what have we learned from that? And so to answer your question, for me, it's always about learning, because that impacts my mental health well-being. And again, like I said, engaging in physical activity, focusing on my spirituality, focusing on being around good people that love you, because that is key. You know, we have, and I don't like to say these types of words, but there are some people that can deplete your energy, but then we allow them to do so because we are wanting to justify for their behaviors and just say, oh, that's just how they are. No, that's not what happens in my camp. If that's how you are, you can't be in my space. I wish you well, and I will love you from a distance, but Robert loves Robert. Yeah. That's key, because I know God loves me first, and I know I have to love me too. And in order for me to love me, I have to sometimes say, okay, this person can't be in this space because, again, they're depleting me. They're not helping me. They're not assisting me. And that's the key piece where, you know, where we have so many people that's kind of dealing with mental illness, because you're continuously letting people deplete you because, one, it's a learned behavior. That's all you know. And some people say, well, that's, you know, I'm used to that. That's what usually happens to me. No, nobody should ever think like that. Nobody should ever think like that. You should think of, you know, I should be healthy just like everybody else. I should be healthy in my communication and my interactions with people. That's what the focus needs to be. And like I said, engaging in the outdoors, again, that is a really key piece. We have things that we can discover beyond our imagination, but we've got to just try sometimes, as my granddaddy would say, try. That's it. Yeah. And then also kind of, again, allow yourself to read a book. Sometimes self-help books help too as well. You know, it's okay to agree in that. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And then also with TV. Now, of course, I know some of us, we all have our different guilty pleasures, but because TV can deplete you too as well. And so we need to kind of really focus on sometimes, and I tell myself this too, we got to focus on some of the positive things from the TV and positive things from just media. Like your show, this is a positive, inspirational. We got to focus on those things because we need more of that, as opposed to, and again, I say this, those are guilty pleasures for me, but we don't need TVs and media that are continuously showing us negativity. We need some positivity. And I know people will say, well, we don't want, and when people use this word with positivity, I'm almost kind of like, really? But toxicity, positivity, they would say, like everything is so positive, because sometimes people feel like, well, that's not realistic. And I do agree, it's not realistic, but it gives us that inspiration that we need. It gives us our self, you know, exploration for motivation. So we need those things, and we want to have those things to continue. You know, I was just telling someone, you know, a friend of mine, and I don't know if you remember this, Dr. Finkley, but they had something that was called Teen Summit. We don't have those shows. We don't have any of those shows anymore. So that's why your show is very important, because it has its own, you know, authentic piece to it to kind of help us grow and move forward. And those are the things that we need. We need those in our underrepresented community so people can have access to them. So if you're listening to Dr. Finkley Show, he needs those sponsorships. He needs people to continue, because we want this to continue. We need these types of platforms because this is helping with the mental health well-being so that it won't turn into mental illness. Yes. We need education and awareness. That's the key. So, yeah.
Definitely the key. Yeah. Definitely the key. Thank you for the encouragement too, Dr. Johnson. Really appreciate it. You gave some great points of what persons can consider, right? Maintain that mental health. We're heading into the holidays, right? Not, you know, COVID did this, but also too, you know, the holidays may be a trigger for some individuals.
Oh yeah.
How can they stay, I guess, quote unquote, sane during this time too?
One thing that I want to say here, comparing yourself to others is the thief of your joy. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing. We cannot compare ourselves to others because we don't know anybody's shoes until we walk in them. You know, some people are still dealing with deaths that have impacted them for over many years, 20, 30 years. And one of the things as a clinician, and I always explain this to people, don't say to someone, well, I know how you feel, or you should be over it, because honestly, you don't know how anybody feels. Everybody, when death happens or some sort of life, just differences in their life has impacted them, changes them in different ways. Everybody's experience is different. And so to answer you, when people are going into the holiday, I want people to maintain their focus on what's enjoyable for them, not what's enjoyable for everybody. If it's enjoyable for you to, let's just say for Thanksgiving, you decide, yes, I may have a big family, but I just want this time to really, I'm off from work. I want to just watch TV. I want to be in my pajamas all day, not be sad, but I just don't want to engage with people. Then that is okay. And family members shouldn't say, well, we want to come over and we want to enjoy you. We want to love on you. But you can love on that person by checking up on them by phone, by text, by email, and just saying, hey, when you're ready to enjoy us or engage with us, we're only a call away, or, we're only a text away. Let us know and let us know what's a good time for you. Also, it's important for people to kind of focus on those memories that were good for them, because what happens is in the holidays, because people have experienced certain life disasters, they're so focused on those situations. Focus on the memories too, because that sometimes can help you get through things, going through different pictures. Allow that time and that space to also cry too. One thing people have to realize is that crying is a form of release. It's a form of therapy. And it is okay to cry, but I think the issue is people feel like, well, if I cry, it will put me in a dark space.
Yeah.
What will put you in a dark space is if you don't do it, because what happens is there's a lot of frustration that builds up, a lot of anger. You're feeling anxious. It's going from, maybe experience bereavement to extended depression. Then also you're kind of dealing with self-medication. So now we're getting into substance abuse and alcohol. So we're self-medicating. So then that leads to other things like paranoia, schizophrenia. So we've got to understand there is a rule for us to make sure that we've got to be okay being not okay. And what that means is kind of understanding, hey, you don't have to be in a space all the time and be happy, but you can be in this space where you're realizing, okay, there's some good memories that are happening, but I'm in this space where I'm missing this and it's triggering me because I'm thinking about the good times and I don't have that person or that situation to engage in. Stay in that moment. Allow your emotions to be in that moment. That's the key piece that I want people to understand. And then I also want people to understand too, with the holidays coming up, it's not to say just because you're not celebrating it this year that you won't celebrate it years from now. Because I think sometimes people feel like, okay, if I don't celebrate it, this is going to be a constant thing. Well, it may be a constant thing for someone for 3 to 5 years. That doesn't mean it will be always. We have to allow ourselves to heal. Anytime you're dealing with any type of trauma, you got to allow yourself to heal. If you do not, it can kind of impact you greatly and impact those that are around you. And so we got to be careful about that. And as I stated earlier, stop comparing yourself to people. That's the thief of your joy. Social media, when it was first set up, it was set up because people needed to interact with family members and friends because they may not have lived in the same area or, in the same spaces. But it has gotten to a place where if one person sees this, they're like comparing themselves, and then that impacts them. And that's the same thing with holidays. Holidays are for togetherness, but sometimes it's for reflection too, by yourself. Sometimes holidays are for, festive events. They're for getting gifts, but also it's about giving gifts and being of service to mankind. That's what it's really about. And I think sometimes we get so far away from those things that it really starts to overwhelm people. People feel like, okay, just because somebody has bought me a gift, I have to buy them a gift. No, maybe that person is coming from the heart, and let's take it as that. Thank them. Because maybe your gift of service for them would just be giving them love, feeding them food, just checking up on them. Think about it in that way. So as the holidays are approaching, the key piece that I want to say is kind of focus on that reflection and focus on just trying to understand. It's not about you kind of just saying, okay, I don't have those spaces or those persons anymore with me, but understanding what do I have ahead of me? That's the key piece.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
This is good.
Yeah.
This is definitely good, and it's helping me too because
Yeah.
you do it at times, but you don't realize that you're doing it. And I love the
Yeah.
point where you said that the holidays can be good for reflection, even if
Yes.
you're around family still.
Yes.
This is a form of reflecting on those things that you need to
Mhm.
focus on and
Exactly.
also move yourself. So thank you
Exactly.
for that.
Yeah, because
Thank
for a
you for
lot of
that.
people, Dr. Finkley, when you have family gatherings or friends gatherings or
Yeah.
friendship giving, as people will call it, things of that nature. For some people, that brings on a lot of anxiety because they feel like, okay, I have to kind of be in this mode where I've got to do this for this person, do that for this person, and they don't really get to enjoy the fruits of their labor or the holidays. And so, what I would say, it is okay to say, maybe this is a time for me to reflect. Maybe I need to kind of really think about things that I have improved on, things that I can continue to work on. And that requires sometimes a little bit of isolation and letting family members know or friends know, it's not that I don't want to engage with you, but I really need to kind of focus on me. And when you are having people that are giving you a pushback, it is okay for you to say in an assertive manner, because we don't want anybody to be aggressive or rude, but just saying, I wanted to provide this information to you as a courtesy. Now, moving forward, I've got to focus on me because I've got to be a healthy me. And if they're not understanding, that's okay. They don't have to understand. You need to focus on you, and hopefully they will be able to focus on them to understand and look at the big picture. This isn't anything against you. There's nothing to be offended about. It's not that I don't want to interact with you. This is just the time that I need for me, and that is okay. Because I think sometimes we feel like we just have to do things just because, but who is it hurting? Because it's not hurting the other person, it's hurting you. Because you're not being true with yourself and saying, this isn't working for me. I really need a better focus for me. And this isn't helping me. And it may be that time, people do it all the time. Some people say, hey, I want to use this time just to travel and get away by my lonesome. I just want to kind of just be in my own space. If that's you, that's okay. If you want to say, hey, I want to go out to dinner by myself, anything that you need to do to be your most healthy self is what is recommended and encouraged, period. And it requires no explanation from anyone to anyone.
Exactly. And knowing that it's okay.
And knowing that's okay. Exactly.
That's okay. It's okay for me.
Yeah.
It may not be okay for you, but that's a personal problem.
Exactly.
It's okay for me.
Exactly. And we have a hard time doing that because, again, it's about people pleasing. We're in a society where that is encouraged most of the time. And so when someone doesn't do that, then it's like, well, you are the problem. No, that person may have some problems. That goes without saying, but could it be that they really want to focus on them so they won't continue to have these problems with individuals? But these triggers continue to come towards them. And so you have a person that's offended. You have a person that's frustrated. You have a person that's anguished. So we got to be aware of those things. We got to definitely be aware of those things. Yeah.
I got you. I think, fam, I hope that you're paying attention because this is some good information here.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So final remarks, 2022,
yes.
when it comes to mental health.
Yes.
Could you provide us your final remarks on that subject and also to any resources that our Think fam watching or, persons that will watch this later that can take advantage of?
Sure. Final thoughts about that, Dr. Finkley. So when I think about mental health, my first thought is just 2 words. Well, 3 words. Think of you. Think of you.
Oh, that
and I don't need to say
somewhere.
anything. Right. And I don't need to say anything more of that. Think of you. Because if you are truly thinking about you, you are understanding that there are ways that I have to improve, but I also know that we all are flawed people. There are relationships that I need to build, but I have to go through the process of doing that. There are things that I want to achieve, but I also have to go through the process of doing that. I've got to be proactive in my health in all aspects, whether it's mental, emotional, spiritual, physical. But the key is think of you. So that's when I think of mental health, think of you, period. Yes, think of you. And when I think of resources, like I stated earlier, always check out the National Alliance on Mental Illness. That is local groups in your area. If you are working, kind of talk with your insurance company about, finding you a therapist, going through your employee assistance programs, kind of contact your local churches, see if they have vouchers that are available. Also, in a lot of the different city and local governments, there are monies that are set aside. Kind of check with your political figures to see if there are certain monies that are set aside that would be helpful. Also, check to see if there are also organizations that will do a self-pay pro bono work, because these things are available for people in the community, but it's about knowing the right questions to ask. Yeah. And the key is, everyone has, a united way in their different areas. The 211, the 411 for information, and they can kind of set you up with those things. And then some of your different local and state human services agencies too as well. So those are some of just the resources. And again, it's really about focusing on the point of understanding that when you are going to speak to a professional, there's nothing wrong with you. And I want to really make sure that people really understand this, because it's very interesting when there's something going on with our cars, we go to mechanics. Mm-hmm. When there's something going on with us needing to get our hair done or our hair cut or nails fixed, we're there. And I don't want to take anything away from those professions, because some of them, for the most part, when people come in, they're listening to their problems and their issues. Mm-hmm. But you want to make sure that you are sitting in front of a person that's trained in that profession, so that if there's something that you're dealing with seriousness, they can really truly help you out too as well. Right. So what I'm really saying in a nutshell is take your health. It is important. Your mental health, your physical health, all of those aspects are important, because we can't leave out one thing and not do another. Some people focus on their physical health, and the first thing they'll say is, well, I'm all good. I don't need to talk to anybody to get in my head or get in my headspace or make me feel like I'm crazy. Let's take that type of terminology out of our mouths and focus on, this is going to help me with my totality of being my most healthy person, so that I can do great things in life. God wants all of us to be abundant, and he wants us to do great things. We are all unique individuals, and we all have the power within us to do great things, but we have to know it. And this is why it's so important to understand that words can impact people, because like I was telling you earlier, with you changing the trajectory of people's lives, of you being in the community, having this platform, our words can make or break people's, really. And I know if I say this is going to be very interesting, but my dad, who I've always thought, him and my mom are my superheroes, but I also know they're human beings. He had shared a story one time with me when he was in school. He wanted to be a dentist. Mm-hmm. And he had a teacher who didn't look like him that told him, well, you can't be that. There's nobody that looks like you that's like that. Not knowing that, his parents, just like my mom's parents, they always had different Black professionals to help them. But that kind of changed the trajectory of his life. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, it made him probably feel in a way of, man, am I not good enough? Now to a point where, he knows that he is, because, he's produced the king. So he understands that, him and my mom, but he also knows now in a place where, these are things that can kind of impact a child's life. So just think about, if we are saying certain words to people, how we can make or shape their lives. What's very important. We can be the key to helping others, each one of us. It doesn't take for you to be highly qualified, a celebrity, a person that's big in the community. It just takes you to be a genuine, kind person. And if you feel like that way about somebody, it's okay to tap them and say, well, what is your interest? What do you feel like doing? Do you feel like this may be the best thing for you, instead of telling someone, well, you're never going to be good at this, or you're never going to do this, or you're never going to do that, because we can change a person's trajectory. And luckily for my father, he had parents that loved him and instilled in him self-confidence, so he knew that wasn't true. But everybody isn't like that. You can have somebody, you tell them that, and it takes them down this road where they're doing other things because they never felt like they were good enough. Mm-hmm. And we have a lot of people that are dealing with that. Someone has told them, and they may have been a child, adult, preteens, whatever, elderly too as well, or as I refer to as more mature, somebody may have told them you're not good enough. And this has impacted their mental health well-being. So now this person is thinking I'm not good enough. So other things are being impacted. The way how they communicate to people, that's no longer in a confident way. The way they interact with people, that's no longer in a confident way. So we've got to be very careful of that. And that's why I go back to, when someone has dealt with some sort of life change, be okay with being okay of not knowing what to say. Sometimes silence is gold. Yeah. And I want people to really, truly understand that. It is okay if you don't know what to say, don't say anything at all. And that person may say, well, don't you have anything to say? And your response can be, I'm just here for you. And I want to be able to connect with you so that I can help you. I want you to kind of teach me how to do that. It is okay. Because we have a lot of people that they're wanting to help people, and they have the best intentions, but those intentions can go far to the left. So we got to be careful and understanding that silence is golden and observation is important.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have to have you back, Johnson. I must have you back because, again, this is a conversation that is continuous and needs to be talked about over and over and over again. I must say. So again, thank you for your wisdom and your knowledge. Thank you so much. How can the Think Fam find you on social media or even get in contact with you?
Yes. So you can actually get in contact with me through LinkedIn. If you just put in Robert Johnson III, you will be able to kind of find me in that manner. And then I'll also have information to provide that you can kind of provide in an overview too as well. I'm also on the social media as it relates to Instagram. You can also find me through email at spring98az1@aol.com too as well. So.
Okay, Think Family, you heard it here. All your information is in the description below as well. So definitely reach out if you have any questions or you yourself need someone to talk with as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
We want to get you in the right place. We want to get you in the right place. Yes.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson, for being with us. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Think Family, I'll go away back in a moment.
Hey there, Fink fam. I'm Skip Robinson, fitness model, pro bodybuilder, black belt martial artist, AARP member, guitar hack, and frustrated cowboy. I'll expound on that and a lot more on The Michael Finkley Show, and I'll see you then.
Welcome to Father to Father.
The mission of Father to Father Charleston, South Carolina is to help fathers in the Low Country area of South Carolina to be a positive and consistent presence in their children's lives. Father to Father provides community-based programs and support groups for fathers free of charge. They also help fathers connect to other resources they need so they can meet their responsibilities and secure their parental rights. Father to Father offers job coaching and employment connections that benefit fathers. Father to Father is a resource for local organizations that want to provide family support and father-friendly services. If this program is a fit for you, visit our location in North Charleston, South Carolina, and meet our friendly staff here to help and assist. Or visit our website at fathertofatherinc.org.
I'm Joey Marie Urbina, and I play Xiomara in Snowfall, and you're watching The Michael Finkley Show.
On the next Michael Finkley, from the Grammy-nominated gospel trio Trinity 5-7, Angel Taylor is with us. She talks about life as a solo artist, her singles Speak, and future projects. Next Finkley.
Speak to me. I need your love all over me until the end of time.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Michael Finkley Show. I hope that you are definitely informed from this interview about mental health, mental illness, mental wellness. Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson, for being with us and just giving us your expertise. If you have questions or need assistance, please reference the resources below. I promise you they will assist you. Thank you so much again, Dr. Johnson. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Michael Finkley Show. Ring that bell for notification. We'll see you in emails saying, hey, new content's available. Listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And for more information about what we do, visit our website, themichaelfinkleyshow.com. Of course, we're on U42. We're on RokuTV and also Amazon Podcasts. So please listen and watch us as well. Thank you so much for watching. Again, please take care of yourself and to always remember to follow your dreams. Have a good one.